And we are live. Warning, July 2nd brings Neptune Retrograde along with Saturn Retrograde, potentially hinting Bitcoin consolidation period. Well, good evening, crypto astronauts, and welcome back to the Crypto Astro Paradise. If you're new here, I do technical analysis and run an astrology birth chart for Bitcoin and see if I can see patterns correlating with the Bitcoin technical analysis. Please subscribe as I put these videos out almost every day. Now, but none of this content is financial or investment advice. This content is intended for entertainment and educational purposes only. Let's take a look at where we are in this solar system right now. So obviously we're on Earth, and we're going to be taking a look today at Saturn, but most importantly Neptune specifically in this video. This is really interesting. I'm getting an update that hopefully the internet connection is good here, but we'll do our best. Okay, so when we see Earth go around the sun here, when Earth was over here, from the point of the view of the Earth, if we look at Neptune's pretty doesn't move very fast, so it pretty much stays in the same place. But when Earth moves in this direction, it appears that Neptune is moving to the left, and that's when it's going direct. But then right when it's going to go the opposite way, and when we head around this way, then it appears that Neptune's going to the right. We call that a retrograde. And same with Saturn. You know, when we're over here, Saturn appears to be moving right as well. Let's see, yeah. And then when we come around where we are around today, we're going to be coming around the bend here, and it's going to appear that Saturn's going to be moving to the right as well. We call that a retrograde. All right, so that's simply what's going on there. So Saturn's going to retrograde at the end of June, and then shortly after, Neptune's going to retrograde. But as you can see, it really means the Earth is just moving around the sun, and it kind of creates that illusion that the planets are moving the opposite direction. All right, so that is what we are dealing with. Now let's jump into what we're going to be talking about today in terms of Bitcoin. Now this chart is going to look very busy, but I want you to pay attention to the yellow lines. All right, specifically just the yellow lines. And to make it easy for you, I made these little yellow circles here to signify. Now, these are the previous times in history that Neptune went retrograde. So we look at all the times in Bitcoin's history when the exact dates that Neptune went retrograde. Typically, when it goes retrograde, it highlights the energies of Neptune, which can bring confusion to the markets. And markets don't like confusion. So what do we see historically? We see back in June of last year, that's when Bitcoin stalled out. Everybody thought we were going to be heading up to, past 31K. It just stalls out when Neptune retrogrades, okay? We can zoom in. Let's show you there. You see right here, this yellow. I got a lot of these other lines. This represented Mars and Gemini retrograde through this period. These blue lines was when Venus went retrograde. I'm going to have future videos about those. But today we're going to be focused on these yellow lines where Neptune went retrograde. Now let's look at this time here. Now this was in a bear market, so I don't even know if I want to pay much attention to the bear market because we are in a bull market. But as you can see, even in the bear market, it stalled out. It's heading up a little bit, but then it just dumped back down. Now this is, when Neptune went retrograde in 2021 in the middle of the year. That is when Bitcoin really stalled out, and there's maximum fear in the markets before it started heading back up. So we see a lot of themes, once again, of Bitcoin stalling out. Take a look at the yellow line here. Bitcoin stalls out for how long? A few weeks before it starts to head back up. So very interesting. Could we see a repeat of these patterns? Back here, June 20th, 2019. Right after Neptune retrograde, Bitcoin did peak out there, but that's likely retail or dumb money just getting extremely euphoric. But then that only lasted a couple weeks. Let's see, only lasted a couple weeks before we just fell back down. And so this is arguably the market's peaked out and headed back down after that. So we see a lot of consolidation, a lot of kind of bearish activity here, especially back here in June 2018. Markets stalled out there. And once again, even in the bull market 2017, we were heading up, kind of similar to what we're doing now. Could we see something like this where markets just kind of stall out and arguably have a big major correction before they head back up? Now, the interesting thing is, we have already seen a correction, a couple weeks ago. So, have we already seen that correction? That's possible. Now, back here in June 2016, we saw a big pump into this Neptune retrograde. Potentially a lot of euphoria there again before markets kind of had a big correction after that. And then here, markets were not doing too much. They tried to head up a little bit, but they corrected after that. We're seeing this time and time again, okay? There's not a lot of bullish momentum. In this one, the markets fell off in June 2013. Markets corrected before they headed back up. And here, let's open this up. Back in, let's see, what date is this? June 2012. Markets were stalling out. Now they did head up, so that was fairly bullish. That was a good buying opportunity, arguably. Back here in the peak of the bull market, June 2011, markets were peaking out before heading into the bear market. Now that's one thing. I don't think we're heading into a bear market soon, so I would not think we're going to hit maximum euphoria on July 2nd, but we'll see what happens. This is tough to see, but the markets were consolidating. I mean, this is way back. June 2010, markets were just consolidating before a big pump up later. All right, so very interesting. I mean, overall, there's a lot of consolidation happening. So this is coming up on this yellow line here, July 2nd. Neptune retrograde, right before that Saturn retrogrades. Now, the cautious thing to mention, I've been mentioning this in all my videos, is that Saturn is going to be conjuncting the Bitcoin Uranus. I'll show you right here on the astrology very soon. Let's take a look at the astrology chart here. But really quick, let's show you what I'm talking about. Here's the planets moving through. As you can see, Neptune is retrograde, Saturn's retrograde there. Saturn goes retrograde on June 29th, and then shortly after, Neptune goes retrograde right there when it turns red. The number turns red, means retrograde, and then they're going to be appearing to head backwards on the chart. All right, so now we're going to look specifically at the Bitcoin astrology chart. That's what we do on this channel. And here's the big concern, is that Saturn, it's going to pass over the Bitcoin Uranus on June 18th. Exactly. And then, like I said, Saturn's going to go backwards. It's going to retrograde and come right back over that Bitcoin Uranus again on July 11th. So we're probably going to see either a dump or a consolidation around that period for Bitcoin, June 18th to July 11th. A lot of caution, a lot of warnings there. And then we get that Neptune retrograde on top of that. So you know, it is looking like it's more of a negative downward pressure to the Bitcoin price action. I can show you this in another way here. Bitcoin chart is in the middle circle here, and the planets where they're in the sky right now are on the outer green circle. Now, when we head forward in time, take a look at Saturn here. Saturn is going right over the Bitcoin Uranus. As you can see, they're both at 19 degrees. And then it's going to retrograde over it again. All right. And then actually much later, I guess Saturn is then later in the year, it's going to move forward again, and it's going to go conjunct over that Uranus again at some point much later. So that looks like that happens in 2025. Well, I'll definitely keep my eyes on that as well. As you can see here, when it gets to February 17th of next year, that's quite bearish. Honestly, guys, that could mark towards the end of the bull market. Could we see peak euphoria then? And then we see a big dump. Very, very interesting. Wow. All right, so definitely be keeping my eye out on that one. Okay. So what else can we chat about here? Let's look a little bit closer at the Bitcoin chart. There we go. And then type your questions in the chat box, and I can answer some of your questions if we have time. So let's look at the daily chart for Bitcoin. I mean, Bitcoin is holding up pretty strong here. Bullish activity. We keep getting a higher low with these swing bottoms. That's very bullish, but on the last new moon, we got rejected off of 71,700. So that's a bit concerning. And then soon, when we're coming up June 18th, we're going to get that major bearish transit right here. And then we're going to get the Neptune retrograde here. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens in the next week. Are we going to continue to move upwards? Are we going to... I mean, it's possible because at least in this next week, we are getting another bullish transit. Are we gonna hit a new all-time high? Maybe everyone gets euphoric, but then maybe we correct down. I don't know, something like this. Totally possible. Good news is I was gonna say we could be heading up after that. We surely could. However, there is some caution in August as well, and I will share that in future videos. But the good news is that we are in a bull market, and things are still looking very good right now. I do not think, unless we see a black swan event, I do not think we're going to go below. I shouldn't even say that actually. We could go below 56,000. That's totally possible. So I'm not actually going to say that yet, because we're still not out of the woods yet. But we are looking overall bullish. We are definitely in a bull market. And a lot depends on where this next weekly close is going to be. If we can close above 71,000, that is quite bullish. But if we simply just, let's see when the next week is, July. So we have a few more days this week, it looks like. If we dump back down in the next few days and we do the weekly close around 68,000, 67,000, that's not so good. So a lot depends on the next few days where we get this next weekly close. And then we can talk about the monthly close later this month. I'll be coming out with a video about the full moon coming up on June 23rd. So definitely subscribe to see that video coming out. I'm going to have some critical updates on that, as well as going to be running my private Crypto Astro Mastermind live group call. And you can sign up for that on my YouTube page. Go ahead and check out the links there. One single payment will get you lifetime access right now. I'm giving an incredible deal on that. Okay, what else we have here? Additionally, with the astrology this month, we also have. Let me go to this one actually. We're getting a bunch of squares, and this is a bit brings challenges. So we're getting a lot of squares to Saturn as we head through this month. As we're getting, it looks like Venus is squaring Saturn now. Venus at 18 degrees, Saturn is at 19 degrees. So Venus is going to be squaring Saturn in the next couple days. Then the Sun is going to square Saturn at 19 degrees. Then Mercury's coming up. Mercury's going to square Saturn June 12th. I mean, Saturn brings a lot of potential challenges, tough lessons in reality, hard work, but if we make plans, if we stay grounded, if we put in the hard work, if we stay practical during this next month or so, we'll do fine. But if we're not using our head, if we're not thinking straight, if we're confused, if we're starting fights, this is not going to be a good time for us. So we are getting a bunch of those squares to Saturn. And then towards the end of the month, we're getting squares to Neptune at 29 degrees. The Venus squares Neptune on June 16th. Conjunct Mercury squares Neptune on the same day. Then the Sun is going to square Neptune exactly June 19th. This can bring a lot of confusion, and markets don't like confusion. So a lot of caution here. Yes, we could absolutely see a big dump. Certainly possible. We could see world events. So it's not guaranteed, but the energy is there. We could absolutely see this kind of stuff. Now let's talk about, this is really interesting because Poseidon is the ancient, the Greek god of the sea. And Poseidon represents Neptune, actually. So Poseidon was the god of the sea, earthquakes, storms, and horses. His myths often revolve around his powerful and sometimes vengeful nature. An important myth involving Poseidon is his rivalry with other gods and goddesses, particularly his brother Zeus. And Zeus is actually Jupiter, and Hades, which is Pluto. So Zeus is Jupiter right here, and Hades is Pluto right there. Together, they divided the world after overthrowing their father Saturn right here, with Zeus taking the sky, Hades the underworld, and Poseidon the sea. This division sometimes led to conflicts among them, reflecting the dynamic and often contentious relationships among the Olympian gods. All right, and basically the Olympian gods, in my opinion, are basically the planets here. So interesting myth there. Poseidon can definitely cause some storms, confusion, big waves. The god of the sea. So with Venus, Mercury, and the Sun are going to be squaring Neptune at the end of the month. A lot of caution here. A lot of caution when they're squaring the god of the sea here. All right, there's the trident. All right. So just wanted to share that, guys. Let's see if there's any comments, and we will wrap up this video. Oh, yes, we have comments. Are retrogrades usually bad? No, not necessarily. It's a time of more reflection. With Neptune retrograde, it really amplifies the effects of Neptune. So all of the things that I mentioned, it can bring confusion, emotions. We're getting these squares to Neptune, so it can bring conflicts, emotional outbursts. But the positive thing is it can help us go more inwards and connect spiritually and follow our intuition, as Neptune can represent intuition. All right, here's another comment. Given that the adoption of Bitcoin and this cycle has been magnanimous owing to ETFs, do you think that we could have an extended cycle into 2025? I do think we could. I do think that's absolutely possible. We could extend into 2025 and beyond potentially. However, there's a major worldwide shift being shown with the astrology as well as other things in 2025 around February, March. I'm going to be talking a lot more about that in my private groups. Also, when could the cycle peak according to astrology? Well, I just kind of gave you a major hint there. Wink, wink. Okay, I believe you once said the elites created meme coins like Doge to indicate the end of a Bitcoin bull run because they pump at the end of the run. What would we look for? Yeah, that's a really great question. So that's just a theory that I've come up with personally. I am definitely not 100% sure on that, but I think it would just make total sense for the reason to create these ridiculous meme coins because typically I would imagine it's mainly retail that's investing in these goofy meme coins. So we will see what happens. We will see if these meme coins get crazy pumps at the end of the bull run. And then we can, if that happens around like January, February 2025, I am going to be selling my bags. I'll tell you that if the meme coins are going absolutely crazy. So that's just a theory that I am looking at. Which software do you use for your dynamic analysis of the transits? It's Astro Gold. All right. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Today we talked about Neptune. We also talked about Saturn, also known as Kronos. Neptune is the god of the sea, Poseidon. And here we are on Earth. We're just hanging out here in this crazy galactic experience, going through this universe on this little ball here. All right. Thanks so much for tuning in. Definitely subscribe if you're feeling this. If you like my energy, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you on the next video. Thanks so much for tuning in today with me. Peace.